Hello, 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 and welcome back to another Art Mom tutorial, where I show you how to do all the things. Today we're doing a proportion slash anatomy tutorial, which I've actually done like a couple of these before, so I'm getting pretty good at them. Um, alright, so before we get started, I want to look at reference images because references are so important. Always look at references for everything. So we're gonna start off. This is Ethan. I found him on Pinterest. That was his name on Pinterest. So yeah, our he's gonna be our reference today because he is pretty average and he's standing in a very clear way. And then after we study Ethan for a little while, we're gonna do a bit of freehand, and then I'll show you how to do all that stuff. But for now, we're gonna look at Ethan, and I'm gonna show you a couple of shortcuts for human anatomy that you can remember to get things right easier. To start off, I'm gonna say this is probably one of the most important ones to getting the whole body to look proportional, and it is that your legs are half of your body size. So if you measure typically from the crotch, I did measure Ethan earlier and his legs are a little bit short, but generally from about like this area down to your heels, that is about half of your body size. So these two things, so from the top of your head to your waist and then your whole legs should be about half of you. As I said before, Ethan has short legs, but in general, your legs are going to be half your body size. Of course this varies. Another thing is the human body can be measured with the head. I measured earlier. Ethan is 6 heads tall, but a lot of things will say 8. This one is not as important to me. I think it's just so that way you can get the head to be proportional, but like it's easier for me to measure the legs and make everything like so. Additionally, your knees mark the halfway point on your legs, so your thigh and your calf should be about the same size, and the same goes for your arms. So if you measure your arm from the top of your shoulder to your wrist, I made that line too long. From the top of your shoulder to your wrist, the elbow should be about in the middle. Another thing is, and again, I'll show you all this freehand and it'll make much more sense, but your elbow and your waistline should line up. So that would be about like that, and then your wrist is level with your crotch. Like so. Now that we have some of these base measurements down that you can remember for later, it's time to do a freehand thing where I show you how to make these shapes. I always start with the head. There are some people who say that it's bad to start with the head. I don't care. We're going to start with the head. That's a circle with a line through it. I've done head tutorials before. If you need that, tell me, but basically I'm just going to go for that. That is not what the tutorial asked me to talk about, so I'm not going to do a head tutorial for now. Just draw your head however you like. Yeah, that's going to be your start. And of course, like I said earlier, you can measure with the head and like go down, but I just kind of start and then I make my way down and I make sure everything is proportional while I do that. Then you go into the shoulder. I just use a line for the shoulder. It's pretty easy. Add your neck. Neck is generally a straight line, but it does go out at the bottom, so do remember that. I always forget to do the neck properly, and then my neck ends up being too long, so don't do that. Make sure you add that at this point. So the body is kind of cup-shaped, so like it comes down at the waist like that, and so we're gonna do that sort of shape here. So coming from the edges of that shoulder line, you go in. It's a very subtle going in, unless you want unless you want a real hourglass shape, then you can make that line more steep and like going inwards, but in general you're just gonna kind of slant it. It looks like a cup. To do the hips, I start from the bottom of the cup, and I basically give my character a pair of underwear, which sounds kind of funny, but it's really helpful. So you go out a little bit. Again, this curve will be more dramatic if the more hourglass you get. And then you kind of go down until you connect in the middle with a sort of straight line. So if you can, oh, my color is, I hate having to change color a bunch of times, but it's all right. So you go out a little bit, come down, and then you basically, again, you're just giving your character a pair of briefs. You can add a line in the middle to show the center if you'd like. This can help when you're doing perspective or crazy poses, but if you're just doing something simple, then this line is kind of redundant, but that's okay. So here is the size of your upper body. This size, like this shape right here, is, if you copy it, like the size of that, I'm just copying it so that way I can show you. But if you go down and you meet these lines together, that should be about how long your legs are, because this ends here and your legs are half your height. So if this is half of it, then this is the other half. So I like usually I will just measure with my fingers. I'm doing this whole thing here to show you because I can't really show you what my fingers are doing outside the screen. But typically I'll just measure the size of the body, like the body with my finger, and then I'll just draw this little line down here to mark where the heels will sit, because it's not the toe, it is the heels. That is where the heels sit. So, with this size, this here, the halfway point, that's going to be your knees. So, I'm going to erase that again. Your leg is kind of tube-shaped. You're going to bring that down. I curve it on the ends like it's a cylinder. You don't have to, I guess, but yeah. And then you come down again. I don't do thigh gaps. If you want to do that, that's cool. I don't. So yeah, you come out for the hips and then you connect. And these do, and I did not do a very good job here, but these cylinders for the thighs do go in a little bit at the middle, like they're wider at the base. They're wider here than they are here. Here is your knee. You can add a kneecap. You can do whatever. A lot of times I will forget the kneecap, and just go for it. It all just depends on what you're drawing and your style, you know? So here's your knees. Here's your kneecap. I'll draw it for the sake of this. And then your shins, and you can't really see this on our reference here, but your shins are flat on one side, on the front side, and curved on the other. So one side, whatever the front is, so if this is the front of the, like if that line is the front, like the middle of the leg, then this side will be flat and this side will be curved. That's because there's muscles on your calf. That's why your calves get bigger on the back. You basically, whatever side is the back side, that's the curvy side. Most of the time when you're standing, your legs are facing away from each other, so the curvy bit will be on the inside. That can change depending on the pose. So then you'll come down, and this is your ankle here. Your heel will come down to this line. I'm not going to do feet again because I don't really know how to explain feet. But basically, you come out for your heel, and there's a couple different ways to do it. I'll do it one way on one and the simple way on the other. So the complicated way is, here's your heel, here, like you kind of like sandwich everything together until like it makes sense. So here's your heel, it comes out. Make sure you have that comes out from the ankle. There's the middle of your foot, and then there's your toe, and you kind of like build it like a sandwich. And then erase the middle. And this will get you a very coherent looking foot. Or you can just kind of go for it. And this is kind of when you've had enough practice to just kind of, and those are like, see, those are not the same size. So I'm just gonna shrink this down. I pity you, traditional folk. Actually, I am one of you, so. But yeah, there's your feet. Moving back up to the arms, I like to do this thing where I add a triangle on the edge, because since I do my shoulders as a straight line, I need to remind myself to curve them down, like, because shoulders are not a straight line. They curve down into the arms. And so that triangle, I put that there personally to remind myself to curve it, to like connect those things. If you want, you can use a curvy line for the top of your shoulder, and that will probably eliminate the need for this triangle, but this is just a crutch because I don't know. So your forearm is basically the same shape as like your thigh. It's like a tube. It goes down. It's tube shaped. And the top of your arm, I don't know what like the top, your bicep. Anyway, that is gonna like your elbow is gonna sit at about where this like your cup, your torso cup ends. Wherever that, like, that's the thinnest part of your waist, that's where your elbow is generally gonna sit. And then your hand is supposed to sit at your crotch, or sorry, your wrist is gonna sit at crotch level. So then the arm is two tubes stacked on top of each other, and that's gonna be about there. Again, I'm kind of going pretty fast because these videos take up a lot of storage. So I don't want them to be too long, but so your wrist goes at crotch level, and then your hand is supposed to go down to your mid-thigh. And so this, and I will do a hand tutorial in a minute, but that is where your hands are gonna go. Your hands connect at the end, and they go down to about mid-crotch level. For your lady characters, I don't know how to, you just kind of add bumps. I don't know. That's just where that is. There's a lot I could go into about the form of the breast, but I'm not paid enough for this, basically. But anyway, as usual, feel free to ask any questions. There is a lot more I could have probably gone into, but if you want just the basic proportion sheet, you're gonna want your legs and your torso, or like your head down to your waist, and your legs should be about the same size. Your forearm and your top arm, what is this? I don't know. Those are about the same length. Your calf and your thigh, I just said those backwards. Your thigh and your calf are about the same length. Elbows sit at waist level, like where about where you'd put the belly button. That's where your elbows sit. You can test any of these on yourself, by the way. And your wrist will sit at your crotch. And that is pretty much it. Again, always use references. Practice, practice, practice. You will get better with time. And yeah, if you have any questions, just ask. Yeah.